Impermanence. Active laziness. There is an old Tibetan story that I love called The Father of As Famous as the Moon. A very poor man, after a great deal of hard work, had managed to accumulate a whole sack of grain. He was proud of himself, and when he got home, he strung the bag up with a rope from one of the rafters of his house to keep it safe from rats and thieves. He left it hanging there and settled down underneath it for the night as an added precaution. Lying there, his mind began to wander. If I can sell this grain off in small quantities, that will make the biggest profit. With that, I could buy some more grain, and I'll do the same again. And before too long, I'll become rich, and I'll be someone to reckon with in the community. Plenty of girls will be after me. I'll marry a beautiful woman, and before too long we'll have a child. It will have to be a son. What on earth are we going to call him? Looking around the room, his gaze fell upon a little window, through which he could see the moon rising. What a sign, he thought. How auspicious. That's a really good name. I'll call him As Famous as the Moon. Now, while he had been carried away in his speculation, a rat had found his way up to the sack of grain and chewed through the rope. At the very moment the words, "As famous as the moon," issued from his lips, the bag of grain dropped from the ceiling and killed him instantly. As Famous as the Moon, of course, was never born. How many of us, like the man in the story, are swept away by what I have come to call an active laziness? Naturally, there are different species of laziness, Eastern and Western. The Eastern style is like the one practiced to perfection in India. It consists of hanging out all day in the sun, doing nothing, avoiding all kind of work or useful activity, drinking cups of tea, listening to Hindi film music blaring on the radio, and gossiping with friends. Western laziness is quite different. It consists of cramming our lives with compulsive activity so that there is no time at all to confront the real issues. If we look into our lives, we will see clearly how many unimportant tasks, so-called responsibilities, accumulate to fill them up. One master compares them to housekeeping in a dream. We tell ourselves we want to spend time on the important things in life, but there never is any time. Even simply to get up in the morning, there is so much to do. Open the window, make the bed, take a shower, brush your teeth, feed the cat or dog, do last night's washing up, discover you're out of sugar or coffee, go and buy them, make breakfast. The list is endless. Then there are the clothes to sort out, choose, iron, and fold up again. And what about your hair or your makeup? Helpless. We watch our days fill up with telephone calls and petty projects with so many responsibilities. Or shouldn't we call them irresponsibilities? Our lives seem to carry us, to possess their own bizarre momentum, to carry us away. In the end, we feel we have no choice or control over them. Of course, we feel bad about this sometimes. We have nightmares and wake up in a sweat, wondering, what am I doing with my life? But our fears only last until breakfast time. Out comes the briefcase, and back we go to where we started. I think of the Indian saint, Ramakrishna, who said to one of his disciples, "If you spend 1/10 of the time you devoted to distractions, like chasing women, or making money to spiritual practice, you would be enlightened in a few years." There was a Tibetan master who lived around the turn of the century, a kind of Himalayan Leonardo da Vinci, called Mipham. He is said to have invented a clock, a cannon, and an airplane. But once each of them was complete, he destroyed them, saying that they would only be the cause of further distraction. The Tibetan word for body is lai, which means something you leave behind, like baggage. Each time we say lai, it reminds us that we are only travelers, taking temporary refuge in this life and this body. So in Tibet, people did not distract themselves by spending all their time trying to make their external circumstances more comfortable. They were satisfied if they had enough to eat, clothes on their back, and a roof over their heads. Going on as we do, obsessively trying to improve our conditions, can become an end in itself and a pointless distraction. Would anyone in their right mind think of fastidiously redecorating their hotel room every time they booked into one? I love this piece of advice from Patrul Rinpoche. Remember the example of an old cow. She's content to sleep in the barn. You have to eat, sleep, and shit. That's unavoidable. Beyond that is none of your business. Sometimes, I think that the greatest achievement of modern culture is its brilliant selling of samsara and its barren distractions. Modern society seems to me a celebration of all the things that lead away from the truth, make the truth hard to live for, and discourage people from even believing that it exists. And to think that this all springs from a civilization that claims to adore life, but actually starves it of any real meaning, that endlessly speaks of making people happy, but in fact blocks their way to the real source of joy. The modern samsara feeds off of an anxiety and depression that it fosters and trains us all in, and carefully nurtures with a consumer machine that needs to keep us greedy to keep us going. Samsara is highly organized, versatile, and sophisticated. It assaults us from every angle with its propaganda and creates an almost impregnable environment of addiction around us. The more we try to escape, the more we seem to fall into the traps it is so ingenious at its setting for us. As the 18th century Tibetan master Jigme Lingpa said, mesmerized by the sheer variety of perceptions, beings wander endlessly astray in samsara's vicious cycle. Obsessed then with false hopes, dreams, and ambitions, which promise happiness but lead only to misery, we are like people crawling through an endless desert, dying of thirst. And all that this samsara holds out to us to drink is a cup of salt water designed to make us even thirstier.